Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome. We'll just give a couple seconds for everyone to be let into the room. So excited to meet with you this evening for our immigration Q&A. Let's let everyone into the room, and then we're going to start. Fantastic. Okay, so thank you guys so much for registering and attending tonight's event, hosted by Devont and sponsored by CIBC. You're in the immigration Q&A. This topic today is going to focus on the new express entry category based draws. And my name is Sisha Maharaj, and I'm business development and external relations consultant with Devont. And so excited to meet you all and welcome you to our virtual space. We have a very big treat for you tonight to speak with our expert, which I'm going to introduce in a few minutes. Next slide, please. So thanks again to CIBC for sponsoring this event. CIBC has been a longtime supporter of international students, newcomers, and youth. And we're so excited to partner with CIBC to bring you these virtual events and to support you as you enter into Canada, settle here, but at the same time when you graduate. So this is our team on the right-hand side. Some virtual tips for you just in terms of logistics. You can go to the next slide. All participants are muted. You should be able to hear us via the computer device. So if you're having any challenges, please let me know in the chat. There's no need to use your video. This session is being recorded, and I am going to be monitoring the chat, and you will receive a copy of this if you are attending and present today. You're going to use the Q&A feature it's showing you here to ask your questions. There usually are a lot of questions for Elizabeth, so I'm going to also encourage you to please listen to the presentation and start putting your questions in maybe after at least 25 minutes. And if you have questions that you think are really important, you can like other people's questions, and I will go from the top all the way to the bottom. Also, just a heads up, if you can ask sort of directional questions or general questions, if you have very specific, unique circumstances, I'll try my best to get through the questions with Elizabeth, but it may require you to do a one-on-one consultation with her. So I'm going to go through the questions as fast as I can so that we get you all the information that you're looking for. And then finally, please take a look on our website at www.devont.ca/all-events. You can go through your school's portal as well, but there are great events every single month hosted for free, and we'd love to see you again. So next slide, please. Okay, so just for those of you who are not familiar with Devont, or if this is your first time with Devont, Devont's purpose is to help everyone that we possibly can to get their ideal job as quickly as possible. The Devont platform has everything you need all in one place with 24/7 access, and that platform includes three main things. First, AI-powered career tools. Second, video-based career training. And third, professional career coaching and weekly virtual events like you're at right now. So we're really excited to help you and support you in your job search and to help you get your job as quickly as possible in the field that you've studied with as well. Next slide, please. Great. And it's really important to know that this information doesn't constitute legal advice. Really want you to refer to Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada for the most up-to-date information and consult a registered immigration professional for personalized advice. Next slide. So without further ado, I'm so excited to introduce Elizabeth Long, who is a certified specialist, barrister, solicitor, and partner at LM Law Group. Elizabeth has been devoting her time and support with Devont's community for many, many years. And just a little bit about her background, it's quite impressive. She is a leading immigration lawyer in Canada. She is an active advocate of immigrant and refugee rights and frequently presents and advises on immigration issues to organizations, universities, members of parliaments, unions, and the media. She has also testified several times before the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration on various immigration policies. She holds a Juris Doctor Law degree from the University of Toronto and a Bachelor of Arts degree with honors from psychology from Memorial University in Newfoundland. She also holds a Master of Law degree from Osgoode Hall Law School, York University, where she focuses on the intersection between immigration and labor and employment law for foreign workers. Elizabeth has been certified by the Law Society of Ontario as a specialist in citizenship and immigration law, a prestigious list which only 65 lawyers in Canada belong to. And Elizabeth speaks English and Mandarin. So, Elizabeth, the floor is yours. So excited for your information today to give us updates on what is a constantly changing immigration landscape in Canada. We're so thrilled to have you here. Thank you so much. Pass it over to you now.
Thank you so much, Sisha. It's always a pleasure to be here with you all today. And so today, what we're going to talk about are the new category-based draws for express entry. In the last session that I promised you guys that we would talk about this because it had just come out just before our last session. So, what are category-based draws? Category-based draws are special draws that the government has at different times of the year. So there are general draws where, for example, the government these days have been inviting just people who qualify for a Canadian experience class, people who have 1 year of work experience, high skilled work experience in Canada and are in the pool. But there are also special draws where they invite people who belong to these special categories. And now for 2026, made some changes to these category-based draws. So first of all, they made changes to the length of experience that you have for the occupations. So before, you only needed to have 6 months of continuous work experience in the last 3 years. Now you have to have 12 months of work experience, but it does not have to be continuous. And this work experience has to be full time. Now, if you have part-time work experience, you could add together your hours to be full-time. Full-time is equal to at least 30 hours a week. So if you have, for example, 24 months of 15 hours a week, that could also qualify as well. Okay. So what happened with this? Now, the other occupations such as healthcare, education, trades, and there's a few other ones. Those are still there, okay? But now the government for 2026 has added several more. They've added 5 more categories. So they've added the ones for transport. Transport, a lot of the airline occupations are now in there. They've added one for skilled military recruits. Those are people who have military experience, but they also have to have a job offer with the Canadian military. Um, then there are 3 other ones that I find particularly interesting. And the 3 other ones are the ones who require 1 year of Canadian work experience. So all of the other experience, it could be anywhere in the world. But this one, it needs to be Canadian work experience. Okay. The Canadian work experience it's not the same kind of Canadian work experience, which qualifies you for points with express entry. So it doesn't need to be work experience where you gain it after you're finished studying. It could be while you're studying. It could be self-employed work, for example. Okay, but it has to be work experience you gained in Canada. And so the first one is physicians with Canadian work experience. So if you have worked as a physician, licensed physician in Canada, and you've worked for 1 year, even if that work experience is self-employed, you qualify. to get into there. And there was a draw, and it was very, very low, but it was a draw almost, I think it was 8 o'clock the next day after they announced this category. So there weren't too many people in the pool. I expect that they will have another draw soon. And so if you're a physician, you've had the work experience, you put yourself into the pool. I do want to, so I'm going to put this link in here. We'll be sending out the slides to you all, and you can check out these categories more by clicking on that link. Okay. Now, I did want to talk about the other two categories in depth because I think a lot more people might uh, be able to qualify under these categories. So the first one I wanted to talk about is the researchers with Canadian work experience. This one is especially exciting because it allows people to use their TARA work experience. Okay. It also allows university professors and lecturers to be in the pool. But for a long time, PhD students who you do your RATA work, you're paid for your RATA work. But because it was work experience you gained while you're studying, you first of all wouldn't qualify under the Canadian experience class. And secondly, though that work experience doesn't give you points for express entry. And so express entry for a lot of people were kind of out of reach. Now, this allows master's and PhD students who have TA and RA work experience to actually perhaps have a chance to be invited to apply because you do have to have the 12 months of full-time work experience. So if you're just doing TA work, for example, oftentimes those hours may just be a few hours a week, and it will take a long time to be equal to the full time. However, if you're doing RA work that is full time, then that could count towards this kind of work experience. It has to be in Canada only. But that what's very exciting is that this work experience, it counts if you get it while you're studying. Now, keep in mind, there are different ways in which someone has to qualify to get into the pool. It's not just a Canadian experience class. In fact, most PhD students you would have to qualify under the foreign skilled worker class. And so there are some requirements for that, including, you have to have all of the points that are needed. You have to have at least 1 year of work experience in continuously in one occupation, etc. But if you do qualify, and we see that you qualify, it might be worth your while to put yourself in so that you can be invited in one of these draws. And the second category that I wanted to speak about is the senior managers with Canadian work experience. Now, this is um, similar to the one for the researchers. It allows people who previously express entry might have been out of reach. For a long time, Canada, we had this thing called arranged employment. And for a long time, those who were senior in what I would say executive managers, they're basically like the C level, CEO, vice president, etc., where they're managing other managers. Those people who had an employer-specific work permit and worked in Canada, they would be able to get 200 points for arranged employment points. Now, those were taken away. The arranged employment was stopped earlier last year. And I think this is a way that the government thought to address this. Now, what's very important is in this sort of draw, it's different from the previous arranged employment because previously arranged employment required you to have an employer-specific work permit. Those who had post-grad work permits wouldn't qualify. This category does not limit people to employer-specific work permit. You could have your work experience as long as you gained it legally. So if you have an open work permit, you could have gained this legally. Now, the thing about this is by next year, this category may have a lot of people who are saying, well, I open up my own business and I'm a CEO of my business, and therefore I should be eligible for this draw. And so, what I am estimating, I am thinking may happen is that the officers are going to be very selective on who they define as senior manager. And the senior manager, the knocks start with the 000, 000. Okay. And then and there's different industries. And if you look at the knocks, they really emphasize that the senior managers, they are directing other middle managers. So if you, for example, opened up your own business and you're the only employee in the business, it could be arguable that you're not necessarily, even though you're CEO of your company, even you do a lot of the work, you're not directing other middle managers. And that may be a criteria that the officers may argue would really differentiate between those who are just self-employed in their own business and those who are senior self-employed, but they are senior managers in their business as well. It probably could lead to some litigation in the end, but I think there is going to be some sort of issues with a lot of people who can say that they're senior managers if they open up their own business to get into this. However, if you have started your own business and you have other employees in your you have other employees in your business, then this might very well be a option for you because right now, for points for work experience, you don't qualify if you are an entrepreneur and you're self-employed. You don't get Canadian work experience points and you don't qualify for Canadian experience class. But this might just be the way that if you are self-employed, you've opened up your own business for you to be able to be invited through express entry. Sisha, one of these days, I would say probably later this year, there are some exciting programs for entrepreneurs that are
Mhm.
coming out with Ontario and also with the federal government. There's a new category that they're developing.
Okay.
And when the details are out, perhaps we might have one, especially on entrepreneurs and those people who, and pathways for entrepreneurs.
Okay, I've made a note of that. That'll be very useful for our community. So thank you so much for mentioning that. And this is very, very exciting to see some new options and new pathways for the community.
Yes, for sure. I just wanted to put our information here. If you want to have a one-to-one with us, with lawyers who can go over your situation, please let us know. Please let us know you're coming from Devant so that we can give you this the student discount as well. The consultation is just $100 plus tax for you guys. So let us know. And That's all I have to say about the category-based draws today, but
Okay.
I'm sure there are plenty of questions out
Yes.
there about this.
Yes, there's lots of questions. And again, welcome everyone. It's so great to see you all here. The most important part of this session is your Q&A. So we're going to get right to your questions. And I'm going to try to get through as many as we can. Just a reminder, I see some questions in the chat. If you can please put your questions using the Q&A just so that I don't miss them. And we can also make sure that it gives everyone on this call, there's quite a bit of people on the call, a chance to vote on the most important questions to them as well. And I just want to thank CIBC for sponsoring this event for us today. We also have a CIBC banking perks that I'm going to share with you via email as well as through this session as well. So please stay tuned for that. So let's just get right to it. We've got a question here. Is it possible to combine hours from different NOCs, 1 and 3, under the Canadian experience class? Do part-time hours, co-op experience, and current work experience all count?
A good question. So, I want to differentiate between qualifying for the Canadian Experience class and qualifying under one of these category-based draws. Okay, the work experience is very different for this. For qualifying under these occupations, I've talked about some of the criteria there. That's a very different kind of work experience than qualifying for the Canadian work experience class. To qualify for the Canadian experience class, it needs to be 1 year of high skilled work experience where you are not self-employed. You are employed with a Canadian employer in Canada. It can be, it shouldn't be while you are studying. So a lot of the co-op work experience, you're still a full-time student, that won't count. But if it's after you've completed your studies, it has to be legal. But even that time that you gain while you are just waiting for your postgrad work permit, but you're allowed to work, that work experience counts. And it's part-time hours. It can be from occupations from different occupation codes. You can just add them all together. That all does count. But certainly, just make sure there's three different kinds of, well, there's many different kinds of work experience and how they count. There's work experience that qualifies for Canadian experience class, work experience that qualifies for federal skilled worker class, work experience that gives you points for express entry, work experience that allows you to qualify for the occupation-based draws, and all of those are different kinds of work experience. So if you want to know how you qualify, do come for a consultation and we'll work through it for you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I have another question here. If I had 1 year of foreign experience, but my previous study permit, sorry, I'm seeing more questions are adding, but my previous study permit agent didn't mention in my study permit process, can I claim my foreign experience for EE?
So we have seen recently a lot of issues around this situation. Um, so, previously, a while ago, it didn't really matter if you had worked in the position. You could put your work experience in, even if you didn't declare on your study permit, the officers didn't take too much issues as long as you could prove that you actually worked there. But recently, in the last few months, we have seen IRCC officers take the position that if you did not declare your work experience before in your study permit application, your work permit application, and now you're declaring it in your express entry, especially to gain an advantage, which is work experience points, that you may have misrepresented either in your study permit before or in your express entry application now. Basically, which one is it? Did you lie before or did you lie now? And so it has become a big issue for those people who did not declare their work experience before in your study permit and work permit, and now you want to get those points for express entry. We have seen IRCC, um, you know, present this misrepresentation finding. And if you are found to have misrepresented, you are barred from Canada for 5 years. So it's very serious, and I mean, every situation is different, but oftentimes declaring those foreign work experience points now will become a big issue.
Thank you so much. That's very interesting to learn about. So thanks for that question. Someone says, I thought CEC was replaced such that only employers could apply through a dedicated portal. Individuals could no longer apply on their own. Please clarify.
No, that's not the case. You have to, there's all sorts of different ways for someone to apply for permanent residence. The one that there is an employer portal, you're likely thinking about the OINP. That's the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program. That is an employer-based program. That's a whole different government where you would apply for your permanent residence application. Express Entry is still very much there, and Canadian Experience class is still very much there. And the points have been slowly dropping for the general draws for Express Entry. I think it was what, 507 was the last draw yesterday. And so hopefully they will continue to drop, and hopefully more of you will be able to get an invitation to apply.
Great. Thank you so much. So someone asked, I got my post-grad work permit rejected and applied again to restore my status. Does that take the same time than the initial post-grad work permit?
So we've seen a lot of cases these days where students forgot to upload the language exam. If you guys are applying for your postgrad work permit, make sure that you upload your language exam. And if you didn't and you don't have a decision yet, make sure you go on the web form and upload your language exam, okay? Because it is a requirement now to obtain a postgrad work permit. Before, a lot of the reconsiderations were basically denied. But recently, I think IRCC may have um, had a second change, it has had a change of heart. And we have seen some reconsiderations where the decision was reversed. If you tell them, yes, I actually have a language exam and I qualify, you put a reconsideration in, some of them have been approved. But until your application goes back into process, um, you are your status is denied and you cannot work until you until they reopen your case and they have told you that they reopened your case. And then hopefully your work permit will be approved. Okay, but you cannot work until your case has been reopened.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, the questions are firing in here for you. Um, I'm just going to go to the next one. Thank you so much for all your questions. This is great. Don't forget to vote for the questions that are most important to you as well. My work permit is issued for a year only, but I completed 2 years of study, which makes me eligible for 3 years. What should be the next step? Should I apply for the extension right now?
It depends on why your work permit was only issued for a year. Oftentimes, if your passport has expired early, and that's why your work permit was only issued for a year, then you get a new passport, and yes, you can apply for your extension then.
Wonderful, wonderful. I have a question here. I graduated from an Excel. Oh, is this the same? Okay, no, this is a little bit different. I just want to take a look at it. I graduated from an accelerated 2-year program at Centennial, completed in 16 months, but IRCC only issued the 1 year. So this is very similar. Um, it says recently administratively withdrawn because the officer claimed I already received the full duration. In this case of miscalculating program length, should I pursue a reconsideration of extension or is an amendment IMM 1436 the proper path to correct an expiry date error? My current permit expires June 30th. So this is a very similar question, but a little bit different with the error.
I would highly recommend that you come in. This is a complicated situation. I would highly recommend that you come in for a consultation. Um, you have to understand that amendments, where you're just asking for simple amendments, the officers only do that on very simple situations. When it's complicated, you will need especially if an officer has decided otherwise, you may need to have a reconsideration or even go to federal court. And keep in mind, federal court, the notice period is very short. It's only 15 days after the decision is made and communicated to you to go to federal court. And so oftentimes, especially if the decision is something that you don't agree with, you must file the federal court application within the 15 days. The reconsiderations, you also have to know that there is only one opportunity for reconsideration. So if you just did it yourself without, just without really, you call the call center, they say, submit a reconsideration. And you don't really know what to do, and then the officer denies your reconsideration, you can't then go to a lawyer and say, hey, can you do another reconsideration? Because they say you already had one kick at the can, and that's all you get. So make sure if you get a decision that you do not agree with, that you contact a lawyer right away. Don't just try to do things on your own. Contact a lawyer so that you know if you're going to put a reconsideration in, if you need to go to federal court, you have an expert who understands how to deal with the system, help you do it. Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm going to focus on the general questions that I think apply for lots of community members who are on this call right now. So I see some specific questions around your own pathways. I'll come to that in the end if we have time. So thank you so much for the information session and your time. If you accumulate 1 year of Canadian experience with an employer, do I still need to be employed with the same employer or employed at all at the time of my application?
It depends on the kind of application. So for the most part right now for express entry, it's just backward looking. So do you have that work experience or not? And if you have that work experience, when they issue the ITA, you're fine. So you don't necessarily need to have it moving forward. Now keep in mind though that work experience, it has to be within a certain period of time. For example, work experience 1 year within the last 3 years. So if those 3 years pass and you're already, you don't have that work experience anymore, then that will expire. But for the most part, right now for express entry, they don't require you to be employed at the time when you are submitting your application.
Thank you. I thought that was a really good question. Thank you so much. So, if your postgrad work permit holder goes back to school to earn another credential and continue working 24 hours a week in the job I hold now, will that experience count towards my 1,560 hours as I want to get a 2 year, full years of CEC?
No, it does not. It's very important that you don't waste your postgrad work permit. You only get one postgrad work permit in your lifetime. And if you go to school while you're on your postgrad work permit, that work experience is, if you are a full-time student, that work experience does not count towards Canadian experience class or your express entry points.
Thank you so much. Just going through the questions here. It's been almost 1 year since we submitted our express entry application under the Federal Skilled Worker Program after receiving the ITA, and we have not received any update from IRCC. Is it normal to have no response for such a long period? At this stage, what would you recommend we do as applicants? Our medical exam is about to expire. Could this affect the application? Is it possible that IRCC may not respond before it expires?
Um, you know, Normally speaking, it could take, I mean, normally 6 months, but it could take a year, or more. But I had a client come to me. They had applied on their own, and they reached out after a year, and there was a email that was sent by IRCC before stating that, and it had never reached them. So I would, if you haven't heard from IRCC, you could send a web form and ask what is happening with my application. You may not get an answer. You probably won't get an answer, but it is something for you to conduct your due diligence to try to get an answer on your application. I think it's prudent to do that if it's been at least a year already since your express entry. Now, if your medical had expired, it's not the end of it. You could redo a medical if they needed you to do a medical.
Okay, thank you. Just reading the questions here. If someone hasn't heard from IRCC in 10 months regarding their post-grad work permit application, what should they do?
Um, You could again send a web form for the postgrad work permit. It's a little bit longer than normal. I wouldn't panic, guys. A lot of things do take a long time, but if it's longer than the regular processing time, you might want to send a web form.
So speaking of web forms, someone's asking here that they use the web form to send the CELPIP, which they indicated I have not uploaded. Do you know which cases they were able to reopen that rejected this application? Is there another way to accelerate the revision? I became a father and will have to work.
Yeah, I think we answered this question.
Okay,
It's something where you would you can ask for a reconsideration.
okay,
And if they don't issue the reconsideration, if they don't, then you could look at federal court. But you're not able to work until they reopen your case.
okay. So I have someone asking, could two post-grad work permit holders start a business as shareholders so they can employ each other as salaried employees at the same time? What's the best way to prove we earned this Canadian experience when working for this company?
Okay, so here's the thing. Um, don't don't become too inventive with regard to this employment. The rules are if you are a significant shareholder and if you have significant control of a company, then you are deemed to be self-employed. And if you are self-employed, then your work experience does not count for Canadian experience class work experience or points for express entry. Now, if you do start a business and you know, you hire other Canadians who are managing other people, etc., it could qualify you for the senior manager draw. But I think there are going to be some specific criteria that the officers look at, especially with regard to whether or not the work that you do is at what they define as a senior manager level.
Thank you. So I see some questions in the chat, and we do have some time. Again, please use the Q&A, not the chat, so that I can make sure we haven't already answered some of these, sorry. Um, I'm just going through them, bear with me. So this is a whole other topic. Someone's asking about permanent residency. So I would say that for permanent residency, we have held other sessions on this, and you may want to reach out to Elizabeth directly for the permanent residency questions. But someone's asking actually, can you talk about any current LMIA news, whether people who don't come under the closed work permit will also be eligible? And if yes, how do I apply? Do I need to apply like express entry?
LMIA is for work permits. There are no more arranged employment points. LMIA is for work permits. LMIAs have shrunk significantly in the amount of people, the kind of work that could qualify for the LMIA. If you need to extend your work permit, do come to me. A lot of employers are going to be very reluctant to apply for LMIAs. And a lot of employers, even if they wanted to apply for LMIAs, wouldn't be able to get a positive decision on the LMIA. There's a lot of nuances, a lot of issues with LMIAs. And if you need to have your work permit extended, uh, do come to me and we can talk about that. We did do a session, I believe. sometime last year on work permit extensions. And you guys can find that on the Devant uh,
Yes.
website.
YouTube. Yeah, on the YouTube page, we have posted previous sessions. So I see someone put in the Q&A. If I'm on implied status, does the time spent with that status count in the number of years towards my post-grad work permit?
In the number of years that qualify you for express entry, yes. But the number of years for your postgrad work permit, normally the postgrad work permit is issued, like for example, if you're entitled to a 3-year work permit, it would be 3 years from the date that the officer issues the work permit. So if it takes you 8 months to get that new postgrad work permit, you have 8 months plus another 3 years on your postgrad work permit.
Okay, great. Thank you. Someone's saying, I'm a co-op student currently working as a technician in a manufacturing company. It's going to be 12 months long. Can this be considered as 1 year Canadian work experience for PR?
So if you're a co-op student, meaning you're still a student, and it's part of your co-op term, that work experience is not going to be counted for express entry points or for the Canadian experience class. Now, if your occupation, though, is under one of those occupation-based, the category-based draw, that work experience could be counted towards qualifying you for the for those category-based draws.
So I see some questions around delayed answers, which Elizabeth has already answered some of this. So I think, is there any way to like help increase or speed up the process? We're getting some quite nervous individuals asking that. So I know you've already answered that, but do you mind reminding them one more time?
So it really depends on delay, how long the delay is for, and the reasons for the delay. If your application is just delayed by a few months, you're probably not going to get anywhere, but just to wait for your applications. Where it comes to the territory that a federal court mandamus application might make sense is if your application is significantly delayed. For example, your express entry application is taking 2 years instead of, the half year, or at least over by 1 year. Because a lot of times permanent residence applications, whether it's express entry or other kinds of permanent residence applications, they go through security checks. And for certain countries, such as Iran, China, certain countries where it's known that the security situation and what the Canadian officers have to do, it's not even the IRCC officers, it's the CSIS officers. They have to gather intelligence from their counterparts in those countries. And for example, in a country like Iran, how are they going to get those answers? So a lot of those kind of applications may be delayed, especially if your name or your date of birth or something is similar to something that has a red flag for them. Okay. But however, significant delays, such as applications that are well over the year in delay, could be something where a mandamus application may be useful.
Thank you so much. As we're answering these questions, I'm just going to share my slide if that's okay here with everyone. And just to wrap up as well on the questions, I see we've got a couple more minutes here.
How about we do two more questions and then
Okay.
we move forward? Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Okay. So if my Canadian experience is in two knock STEM codes, 1 to 10 months and 15 months, what knock code should I choose as my main knock for the EE profile?
Mm, that's that's, right now it doesn't necessarily matter too much. But if for example, if it's a category-based draw one, it might be good to put that as your main knock, or before with when there was a lot of the human capital stream draws with Ontario, sometimes it might be good to, but it just depends on the situation as to which one is your primary occupation. The primary occupation is the occupation normally the occupation that you intend to work in Canada.
Okay. I know we've had this question before around post-grad work permits, but if the post-grad work permit is expiring, when is the best time to apply for a new work permit? And also, while they're waiting for the post-grad work permit to be approved, can they go to their home country and come back?
Um, if your postgrad work permit is expiring, it's time for you to go and talk to a lawyer. Everybody's situation is different as to whether or not or how you may or may not be able to qualify for extending your work permit. You may or may not need to extend it. There are all sorts of situations, and I wouldn't wait until your postgrad work permit is expiring to do that. I would actually, the earlier the better to go for a consultation on your situation, because oftentimes there are things that you can do if you had a couple of years of time to do it versus a couple of months to do that. But I think what was the other question? Can you leave Canada while
Yes.
you're waiting for your postgrad work permit? Be
Yes.
very careful about leaving Canada while you are on implied status. That's when your study permit and it's beyond the 90 days and you leave Canada, because coming back to Canada, you could lose your implied status and you couldn't work until you get your new work permit, or you may have trouble re-entering the country as well. So if you are in general, I mean, every situation is different, but in general, if you are able to be in Canada while waiting for your postgrad work permit, stay in Canada, and stay in Canada and work in Canada while waiting for your postgrad work permit.
Good advice. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Please join me in thanking Elizabeth so much for her time today and coming back over and over and over again. I just put in a feedback form, a poll. Would love your feedback. If you have any specific questions for Elizabeth, I know there's been some general questions and some specific questions. Again, you do get a discount as being part of Devon's community for your initial consultation with Elizabeth. Please let her know you were here today. You can email her inquiries at lmlawgroup.com. Thank you guys so much. I did put the poll. I'd love to hear your feedback. I'm going to share with you just some perks as well. Oh, great. We've got the next slide. So just wanted to ensure that you guys are aware that if any of you are coming up for graduation, not sure what to do, please join the Alumni Advantage program. It is here specifically for alumni for the class of 2025 and 2026. Whether you've just graduated or if you've been searching for a while, it's normal to feel unsure about what comes next. But the good news is you don't have to be alone while you're figuring this out. Devon is here to support you. So you can scan to register. I saw some interest in the chat and the polls. So I really, really appreciate your feedback around the alumni program. And I also just want to take this opportunity to thank CIBC for their sponsorship. I think you have one more slide there. So as a gift from CIBC, if you're newcomers or you're international students looking for financial perks for banking, CIBC is here to support you with tailored banking solutions, expert advice, and exclusive newcomer offers. For those of you who are recent grads and youth and who are in school, there are also student banking offers as well. You will be able to get this information from Devon in an email and also on our website. So please scan those QR codes. You can use the code DEVONT if you're opening up a bank account, if you want to get the perks specific through the Devon community, and you will be able to take advantage of the financial banking perks available. So please start your journey with confidence. Let CIBC help you settle and succeed in Canada. And just want to take that opportunity to thank them so much for sponsoring this event. I'm going to just let you know that I put a poll here for, just to understand your financial goals as newcomers, and from my personal banking experience as well. I'm really focused on helping the community to secure good jobs, because when you have a good solid job, you're able to get your pathway, to Canada, which will also help you establish yourself in Canada, which includes, saving up to buy your first home, helping you manage, your credit and your debt. There's so many parts of this entire experience where your financial goals, and your financial literacy is very important. So we will be working with CIBC to launch and to help you build your financial foundation, and to help you, as you either graduate or as you settle into Canada. So, please take advantage of all the banking perks offered by CIBC, and there'll be more events specifically as well about careers in banking coming up as well. Our next event, I think we should have one more slide. Is
I
there one
don't
more slide there?
get here.
No? Okay. So I'm just going to maybe share my screen if that's okay.
Mhm.
I think that I just want to mention our next event that's coming up. So keep on learning with us. There are going to be more and more opportunities next Wednesday. We have, what recruiters are looking for, how to talk to recruiters. We have career sessions. So please take a look at the website to register for the upcoming events on www.devant.ca, and you can click events to see what's coming up next. So here is sort of what the community is saying right now. A lot of individuals are trying to save for tuition. We've got 14% looking to manage daily living, 18% building credit history in Canada. And interestingly enough, 55% of everyone here today is saving for future investments or a big purchase, like a car or a house. So that's very interesting information. This is very helpful as we curate the future sessions for you. Me specifically, for those of you who are looking to buy a home, I'm a licensed mortgage agent, and I can help with any questions related to looking for credit to buy a home or have goals for big purchases. So feel free to reach out and stay in touch. We will be offering sessions through Devant around financial literacy and education as well. And I'll be hosting some of those events in the future. So I hope to see you all back again. We're at 7:52, so we're a little bit early today. Elizabeth, again, thank you so much. I know you've had a long day, and thank you so much for what you do for the community. I know that it's really exciting to hear that there are some new pathways and that there are new opportunities in the immigration pathways. I wasn't expecting to hear that. So I'm really excited to learn about express entry, the what you talked about around, executive managers, what you talked about related to an entrepreneurs. I will follow up with a team to create a separate topic just on entrepreneurs. As you said, there'll be new pathways launched, updates to the policy. I see lots of hearts coming here for you. So that's really, really nice. Thank you guys so much for all the love that you're giving to Elizabeth. And again, on behalf of Devant, you're not alone. We're here to support you. Please tell your friends and family. These events are all free. We're here to help you and help you be successful. Give us your feedback on if there are any specific topics that you're looking for, any specific speakers. We'd love to make sure we can curate a custom experience for you, whether that be employers, bankers, immigration experts, and others. We're here to support you be your success. So thanks again, everyone. And Elizabeth, have a good evening. Always great to see you. We'll talk soon.
Thank you guys. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye. Good night, everyone.